Hello, plan to fail or plan to succeed? That is the topic for today. Welcome, everybody. We are on another day of Wednesday Wisdom. I'm so excited. I am Tony King. I have the honor of being the designated managing broker for eXp Realty and all 9,100 and something agents that we have here in Texas. And I have with me, there's only one at the top, though. There's only one number one, and that number one in the entire state of Texas. I was able to wrangle some incredible individuals to be able to share with us what their plan is and how they work with their number one in Texas team, top five, I think, in the entire country in terms of production. So I was able to get Andrew Franklin and Jimmy Franklin to join me today on this Wednesday Wisdom. Andrew, Jimmy, please introduce yourself for anyone that doesn't know you.
Dad, why don't you kick it off?
Sure. I'm Jimmy Franklin. I did found the Franklin team a few years ago. I have since it's been taken over quite successfully by my children, Sarah and Andrew Franklin, about 2014, right, Andrew?
Yep.
Yeah. And so that's who I am. I was with Remax for 32 years, starting in 1986 before we moved over here. But it just hit 40 years in the business.
Wow. 40 years. So you've seen some ups and downs and
couple
not your first market downturn, not your first rodeo, and you're able to see past it. And I think that's a great perspective to have. Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew Franklin grew up in a real estate family that told myself I was never going to do real estate. But my dad always talked to me about business and money and investing. But I started my career on Wall Street doing M&A investment banking, and then did that for 5-6 years in San Francisco, New York. Then I moved firms to get back to Texas, and then did that for one more year until I decided to do what I told myself I'd never do, is join the family business into real estate. And that's going on. We bought the business, I think 14, but I got licensed in 13. My sister had already been working for my dad for a number of years before me, but we bought it from him and sort of been taking it over and trying not to screw it up and grow it. My dad, very modest, but he built a very big business over that, call it 30 plus years. And he was doing 500 deals with 4 or 5 agents. And so we've been fortunate enough not to screw it up so far. And it's been a lot of fun.
That's great. That's great. Now, in terms of production, I know I mentioned you are number one in Texas. You're always, number one, number two. I think you and Monica Foster kind of battle out back and forth month after month, which is great. And I love to see that. But where y'all at right now in terms of production as we kind of round out 2022, just so agents have some perspective on what is possible? Because
So Tony would know this better than anyone, but our numbers are, it just depends on how you look at our numbers, because we do have some partnerships with some home builders, and candidly, those a little bit artificially inflate some of our numbers. Those don't hit our EXP production numbers. So if you look at all of that production, we'll do, north of 500 million this year. If you take out those numbers, we're still, on pace to probably be just shy of 1,000 transactions this year. So 300 million without the builder stuff.
1,000 transactions. 1,000. That is absolutely incredible, with or without the asterisk, for some of those builder relationships. But again, in those builder relationships, they simply foster you to be able to pick up buyers and to, still close transactions. So it's a marketing thing. And that's an incredible business model that we're not going to get into today. Today is all about planning and helping agents plan for success. But first off, congratulations on your success. My threshold to get someone on the podcast is that they have to have closed at least 100 transactions in a year. Y'all are doing 10 times that. so certainly well qualified to be on here. And I think that if anyone on this call is able to just do a fraction of that, a tenth of that, they will have a rocking rockstar real estate business. So what's your plan for next year? Over 1,000 transactions. What's the plan for next year? Are you going down? Are you going up? Are you planning to fail? Are you planning to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. This is mostly you want to talk about planning, and we've gotten real serious on planning over the last probably year. I think a lot of teams and agents and probably businesses in general, they plan in December, and that's the only time they plan. Is they come out and say, okay, what's my budget for next year? What am I going to grow? Where am I going to spend? Just a typical end of the year planning, which there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think it's. I think that's a start, but you have to take it to the next level. And so we are now use a platform or a framework called Entrepreneurial Operating System (EOS). Two books that talk about that are Rocket Fuel and Traction. The individual or the people that wrote those two books, Gino Wickman and a couple others, created EOS. And so a big part of EOS is planning, but it's about quarterly planning. And so we have our big quarterly planning once a quarter, 4 times a year. And we just came back from our annual planning, the big planning. We take 2 days where we go offsite with our whole leadership team, and 2 full days where we don't take any meetings, try not to take any calls, and just plan on what are the big initiatives of our company, where we're going to spend money, where we're going to maybe cut some things that aren't working, and just revisit everything in our business. And so we came off that 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there's a lot of stuff we're planning on doing, but we're very growth minded always, even if we think the market's going to be challenging compared to a year before or a quarter before. We're always figuring out, okay, the market might not cooperate with us, but what are we going to do? How many agents do we have to add? How many lead sources do we have to add? How much market share are we going to have to take to still grow? So the market is going to be tough, but we're still planning growth. We're still adding agents. We're going to spend some money on lead sources we haven't spent before. So we have a whole laundry list of stuff we're going to do, but it's all around growth, right? Like we want to get better than we were the year before, the quarter before.
So you mean to tell me it's possible to grow in a down market?
Hey, I think it's possible to grow in any market, especially in Texas. We are always very fortunate that even if things slow down, it doesn't happen like San Francisco or Phoenix or some of these markets that I don't care how good you are, you're gonna decline in certain markets. So even a contraction in Texas, you can still grow in. And for us, we're gonna have to work, maybe 2.5 times as hard to grow as we would in a normal market where the market's helping you propel growth. So a lot of what we're talking about is 2.5 and 3xing our activities to grow, even if that growth is 15 or 20%. That's sort of what it has to be. But like most entrepreneurs and most real estate people, we get used to the money we make, and we don't really want to go backwards.
That's incredible. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay, to kind of bring everyone in our audience here on to be a fly on the wall, right? As you are going to this offsite, most of these folks, either haven't been at that level because again, there's only one Franklin team doing 500 million in volume. So I would love to be a fly on the wall and find out what kind of questions are you asking in that room, right? What are you solving for? And we'll come back because I certainly understand the fact of where a lot of entrepreneurs and real estate agents go astray is by doing it once and sticking it in their drawer. And I love this idea of quarterly. We do the same thing. Of course, when I do our GPS as a team, we do it monthly, right? So yes, we have a quarterly goal, we have a yearly goal, but then we're looking at it every single week and monthly on how we're stacking up as a state team, which is how we're able to facilitate the growth that all these amazing agents are doing. But take us as a fly on the wall, right? What's the first question that you're trying to solve for in your planning session at this $500 million mastermind?
So one of the things I love the most about EOS is how they do planning. And so basically the best way to describe it is keeping the end in mind. And so EOS, and EOS is not a real estate thing. There's like something like 150,000 companies that use the EOS framework. So it's a
Wow.
very well-known thing. I didn't know about it until someone introduced it to me, but their big thing is you take what they call a BHAG. So BHAG stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. And so typically they want your BHAG to be 5-10 years out. Ours, I'll just share ours. Everyone in our company knows ours. And so we've been on EOS for a year. So we're 1 year into our 10-year goal. But our big, hairy, audacious goal is to sell 5,000 homes in 1 year. And so with that, so it's a very singular one goal, 5,000 in a year. Where do we have to be after 5 years, after 3 years? And it works backwards. And so when we don't really talk about our structure as much with the 5,000, but we do is we look at a 3-year picture. Okay, if we in 3 years are going to be on pace for the 5,000, how does our company need to look? How many agents do we need to have? How many staff? How many lead sources? Does our CRM work for 5,000 closings? Does our office location work for 5,000 closings? And so everything we're doing is keeping in mind that we want to close 5,000 homes, and we have to be, if we're selling 1,000-ish right now, we can't still be selling 1,000 homes 3 years from now and still think we're going to hit 5,000. And so it's not just about, okay, we need to be proportionally there. We need to sort of look in the mirror and say, if we want to be on pace in 3 years, what is our organization? What is our company? What team members are we missing that we haven't thought about that we would need to be on pace? And so it's a all day session of just the 3-year picture is hours and hours of us debating internally with our leadership team of how are we going to be on pace to hit that 10-year goal. So basically keeping the end in mind and then breaking it all the way down. And then we finish the 2 days with quarterly goals. So the quarterly goals are big projects that are going to get us to the 1-year plan. And that 1-year plan is going to get us to the 3-year picture. And then that 3-year picture is going to get us to the 5 years and so on and so forth.
Wow. So 5,000. Once we get off of here, I'm going to call the transaction team and put them on notice and on alert that they're going to have 5,000 transactions coming their way. So we need to staff up. But don't worry, we got your back. I think we are on pace this year for 55,000 transactions that we put through our one transaction team. So we got you covered. We got you covered on this end. You got to go close them. So that's great. And I love that. That BHAG, that big O, what was it? The
big,
BHAG?
Hairy, audacious goal. Yeah.
Big, hairy, audacious goal. So I want to challenge everybody that's in the chat right now. Drop in, what is your BHAG? What is your big, hairy, audacious goal? Drop it in the chat. I want to see it. And if it's not, if it doesn't have a comma in it, it's not big enough, right? I'm listening to Andrew. We're going to follow his lead. You better have some commas behind some of this stuff. We want to see that. So Jimmy, what's your perspective on all this?
Well, first of all, I came up in a different era. We were pretty much on our own. There wasn't a lot of this kind of interaction, which is amazing. It's just been a pleasure to watch it happen, especially since we joined this brokerage and learned, this collaboration and sharing. But going back to the one thing I can speak to is these markets, right? We're in a market that's down, obviously, from a market we just came out of. But these markets come and go. And, the one that most of us remember, not that long ago, I could speak to some markets that nobody here is old enough to remember, but the one that most of us do know about is the financial crisis, right? And we came out with our small team doing, just over $100 million in production in 2008. We came out of that, and as we all kind of remember, the really bad stuff hit in 2008 late. Things were rolling along so in 08, and then it was okay, this is it. This is going to be the 1929 Depression ahead of us. And 2009, to your question about can you grow in this kind of market, and I think we all agree. I don't think there's a whole lot of economists that wouldn't agree that whatever we're going through right now is certainly doesn't hold a candle to how bad that was supposed to be and how bad that was. I mean, this is a picnic. It's going to be a picnic compared to that. And so 2009 turned into one of my favorite years in the business because we did grow. We did have a better year in 9 than we did in 08. And I remember coming out of that, it was a huge sigh of relief and a lot of pride in our team. I don't have any great stories about what Andrew's talking about and all this planning that was done. I do remember that we sort of just said we're not gonna be doom and gloom. We're not going to let this affect us, and we are, and we do. And to Andrew's point, you get used to this kind of income. You don't want to go back, and we just worked. We just worked a little harder and a little smarter, and it was one of my favorite years. And then we've never gone back at all one time since then, I guess, until right this year, which is a small step back, but a small step back from some massive
growth,
sort of strange kind of unique, years that I've not seen in 40 years. What was happening in 21, for example. And I mean, that's just, I've never seen anything quite like that. So that's hard to follow up with in a normal situation.
Absolutely. And I would love maybe if you can unpack a little bit more about this. I literally just hopped off an incredible call with our leadership. So I was on a call with Leo and with Jason Guessing and, all of our leadership team here. And one of the concepts that they brought up is peacetime generals versus wartime generals. Right. So we are headed into war. And that's something that really resonated for me as a Marine. I get that. Right. I get that lingo. I went to Iraq and, fought over there. So I get the wartime stuff and I get the peacetime. And you need a different kind of general, a different kind of a brokerage during a peacetime than you do during a wartime. So, Jimmy, how important is it to keep that in mind, or how important is it to have that wartime versus peacetime mentality in this kind of market?
Well, it's extremely important. When we were rolling, and I wasn't like I said, nearly as organized and deliberate and proactive as the team is now with Andrew and Sarah. I took care of business, and it just, I was a good relationship guy. I was really bad at a lot of things, as far as, organization and all that, but I was really good at relationships, and the business had just been coming my way for years and years. And I just sort of took care of what happened, what came my way and what came our way. Had really good people working for me, and didn't ever lose anyone that I didn't want, that I didn't want to lose. And but to your point, Tony, wartime, you have to be more proactive. You have to get out there and so that's a simple answer to how I handled the downturn, which, equivalent of wartime. And so, when all the dust cleared at the end of it, we had not gone backwards at all. So that's my answer. I'm sure Andrew has a much better one than that.
I want to hear it, Andrew. Yeah, you're up next. So, what's the difference in the mentality in the team? I presume that this mastermind that you did was much different than it was last year and the year before and the several years before that. So, what does that look like, having that wartime general mentality? What did you tell your team at that meeting versus what you told them last year?
We base most decisions, pretty much every decision we can, based on numbers and financials and metrics. And so when numbers are down and profitability is down and the market's down and everyone's predicting it to be down, it's a different conversation than when everyone's fat and happy. And so we are, I think the true operators operate in markets like we're going to be in and figure out ways they can still grow. And honestly, I think all of us included, we got lazy, right, with where we were spending money and lead sources. We might not have tried or tried for as long when they weren't really giving us a return, and not just lead sources but everything. And so you still have to spend money and hire good people and make those expenses to grow in these markets. But I would say the biggest difference in the market we're going to is, like, we're super thoughtful, and every lead that we have, we're trying to really be aggressive on follow up and trying to let no lead go unturned. And we're harping that to our agents. Like, yes, this is going to be a more challenging market. And so you might have to do 2.5, 3 times more effort to make the same amount of money. But if you're on this team, there's no choice, because that's who we are. We're going to grow, and we try to attract those people. So no one in our leadership team wants to go backwards, and that permeates through our whole organization. And everyone in our whole organization knows what our goals are. They know what our core values are. That's a big thing with the OS, is getting everyone rowing in the same direction. And the direction right now is we're going to have to row a little bit harder. And so we're doing stuff like we've never done before. We're about to roll out a prospecting model. That's something we have never done, is make cold calls. And we're about to implement that on our team. We're going to do call-a-thons. And so we're doing stuff we didn't have to do in other markets because growth is our only option.
Growth is the only option. That's a mic drop moment right there. Growth is the only option. So, and what I love is that when did you set this goal? Let me ask you this. When did you set this BHAG? When did you set this goal of 5,000 transactions in a 12-month period?
It was when we started EOS, so about a year ago.
Okay. And you've seen the market fluctuate wildly in that year. But what I love is that you didn't down-regulate the goal, right? No. Can you tell me a little bit? But what you did is up-regulate the amount of work and the amount of things you're going to have to do to reach that goal, but you did not down-regulate the goal. Can you tell me about that? How did y'all come to that mindset?
Yeah. And that's the thing you revisit, right? Like we revisited this a couple weeks ago. We had 2 new team members that weren't on the leadership team that weren't with us when we set that goal. And so they knew about it because we mentioned it in every quarterly company. We have a quarterly all hands company meeting where we talk about the last quarter and what projects we got done, where we're going for the next quarter. So again, to get everyone rowing in the same direction. But so they knew about the 5,000, but they had never really, heard it from within the leadership team, why we set it, what we want to do. It's just not about 5,000 closings. It's about giving more opportunity for everyone in our organization. And we feel like if we 5X the amount of closings we have, which is basically what we're saying, everyone at the company has a bigger opportunity to grow, whether a new position or make more money. Or something else, right? They have that option, the bigger and more successful we get. And so this 3 weeks ago, we looked at it and like, hey, is everyone still behind this? Do we still think we can hit that? And speak up. Big thing about EOS is open and honest. And so we're asking our leadership team to don't just shake your head yes because the owners want that. If you need to see something that doesn't make sense or you don't think you can get behind, this is your time to talk about it, because once we get to the company, we're all on the same page. You had your chance to say you didn't agree with where we were going. And it was a debate. I mean, one of our newer people, our sales manager, she was like, I want to talk through that. Why do we think we can get it? How are we going to get there? And at the end of the day, she got on the bus after she heard, it wasn't just some, hey, we're going to, throw a dart on the door. Like, it was thoughtful, and we have a plan for it and all that. And so it's something we constantly revisit, right? Like, if we're going backwards, what are we going to do to increase? And that's sort of what happened in 2022. I mean, we had a better year in 2021 than we're going to have in 2022. And so those were tough conversations of, we had a worse year, but are we still going to be able to hit, the 3-year and the 10-year? And what are we going to have to do in 2023 to hit that? So it's not, a lot of goal setting is like write your goals and then like revisit it, when you write your goals the next year. I mean, we take it to a whole nother level.
So how often are you, would you recommend that agents revisit their goals? Is it quarterly? Is it monthly, daily? I mean, what do you?
We have big, what they call quarterly rocks. So the rocks are big projects. So everyone on the leadership team has 3-ish a quarter. So with 5, 6, I don't take any rocks, but with the other 5 members, we have 15 projects that the company is, we revisit those rocks once a week. We have a L10 meeting, which is our level 10 meeting. Same time, same place. We meet for an hour and a half over Zoom with the leadership team. Wednesday, 8 a.m. from 9:30. If you try to call me, I won't pick up at that time, no matter what, because that's the EOS jokes. There's 2 ways you can miss a level 10 meeting: death or vacation. And that's the only time we miss it, right? We don't schedule other meetings. And so every week we're revisiting those rocks. And then once a quarter, we're revisiting the 1-year picture. And then once a year, we're revisiting the 3-year plan.
Got it.
So because EOS believes if you're hitting a majority of your rocks, you're going to hit the 1-year plan and picture or plan. And then if you hit your 1-year plans, you're going to hit your 3-year, right? So if you take the business, the blocking and tackling for the quarter, your budget is going to be hit, and so on and so forth. Obviously, the market has to cooperate in every business, and things, you could hit every single rock you determine that's important for the company, and something can happen in the industry, which is sort of what happened in 22.
So let's talk about new agents, right? Because one thing I love about your team is that it's constantly growing. Every day I look up and you got like 5, 10 more agents. So what do you tell a new agent that's coming on board? What do you say to that individual? And we're going to do it 3 ways, right? We're going to do it firstly, a brand new agent that you're bringing on board that hasn't closed any real estate. Great time to be getting into real estate, by the way, especially on the Franklin team. And then, an agent that has some success, but they're nervous, right? Because they're seeing what's happening with their business. Maybe last year they closed 20 transactions. This year they're looking like 10, 15. What are you telling them for 2023? And then your mega icons, right? Your folks that are absolutely crushing it, either with the team or individually. So what does that strategy session look like when you bring someone on board? Either one, or you, Jimmy or Andrew?
Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, it is sort of broken out what you explained. We focus a lot more on the new agent to the team, or the new agent to the industry, to systemize that. So we have a very they have the same amount of the same training videos to watch, the same things we have to then confirm that they're doing the things we want right, and then they're doing the certain activities in the first 90 days. And so it's very regimented and it's structured when you join our team for the first 90 days. And then if the activities you've done in the first 90, those are the things you're going to continue to do every single week with us. And so, you literally have like every day planned with us for the first 60 days, where it's the same videos. You shadow a certain number of people, and then you start, the sales manager starts shadowing you on things that, you can write a contract well, you can have a conversation well, and then script practice. All that stuff is very regimented when you join our team. But then I would say that the next 2 buckets it's a little bit more individualized. I would say the second bucket to me is all about you should at that point have a lead source that works for you, whether it be Sphere or open houses or something else. And so to me, to go to that next third level, you need a second lead source that you do really well at. Everyone has to do well at Sphere if they want to do well in real estate. And so Sphere plus something else. So a lot of times we'll work with those individuals. We'll take an hour meeting with them and say, have you gone forward or backwards? Where are you getting your business from? What's working? What's not working? So a very individualized coaching with, how to level up. And it's usually about doing more dollar producing activities, where are they getting bogged down? And then the third one, like the agents that are doing 50 plus deals on our team, it's all about leverage for them. It's all about how do they get their time back so they can only focus on trying to bring in more business and bring in bigger relationships that can get them more business. So it's those last two buckets are definitely more individualized, one-on-one with the agent, depending on their needs and their situation. And the first is like, it's the same thing with every single agent that joins the team, and especially ones that are brand new to the industry.
Wonderful. Jimmy, you're so relaxed, right? You're just so chill. And I'm curious to know if that has to do with the perspective that you have after seeing all these ups and downs. How do you keep that perspective during a tumultuous market, during things, when things get crazy and things look bad and the teams are all shaken, and even sometimes the leaders can get shaken? How do you maintain composure? How do you stay even keeled? I don't think I've ever spoken to you in an aggravated state, even though we've had some issues. But
I know it's easier, Tony, when you're retired.
Fair enough.
But no, I've seen it. I've been through it, and I've been through a lot worse than anything we're going to see here. And and I know that there's this is just a correction. This is a thing that's going to come and go. And I guess that's my answer. I'm more relaxed. I'm a fairly relaxed person anyway, but that if there was something, that was, if there are situations that could stress me out in life, this really wouldn't be one of them, because I know how it is. I also think that there's opportunities that these kind of markets create for those willing to take advantage of it. Like you just heard in, very well articulated by Andrew, that the Franklin team is doing. So I really feel that way. There's a lot of opportunities that'll come out of this, and people and teams like Andrew's describing. They're going to come out of this better than if things had just stayed status quo in the first place. In my opinion, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to step back. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to leave the industry. So while there may be less business in general, across the board, there's also going to be less people to get that bit to have that business. And so, that's what I saw that year that I grew. There wasn't more business than there had been the year before. But we grew because we got a bigger share of what business there was. And I think that's going to happen with the Franklin team and many others that are proactive and not, and not doom and gloom.
So real estate is cyclical, always has been, always will be, at least for the foreseeable future, right? It's seasonal and it's cyclical. So it kind of goes like this, and then it also goes like this. How important is it, Jimmy, to get a hold of someone that has been through a few seasons, been through a few cycles, been through and seen this stuff, as I talked about at each of those levels, right? Because there are some, I meet new agents every day. When I say new, people that have been licensed for like 5 years, but they're absolutely crushing it. I was talking with the team lead not too long ago at another brokerage, and They built their brokerage in like 2 years to 70 agents. And, he's absolutely crushing it, doing, hundreds of millions. It's killing it. And, but he's never been through a market downturn, right? So that,
Right.
he's freaking out. So how important is it to find someone that's been through this, and the importance of like mentorship, right? And getting a hold of someone that's seen it.
I grew up in an era and at a brokerage that, it was all, here it is, you're on your own. There wasn't a lot of this collaboration that we see today. I'm just still astounded on a daily basis on how much help there is out there. How this is the golden age to be a realtor for a lot of reasons.
It is,
right. One of the reasons is that which you're talking about. Another reason is, agents are more valued by brokerages than they've ever been. And so, but to your question, that, those people are out there. One of the things that I like doing nowadays is talking to people about, about things that I did right, and things that I have seen, Andrew and Sarah come in and improve on. And so I can speak to that as well. So it's very important to do it. But just as importantly, it's available. You don't have to look very hard to find those people. In my day, I don't even remember thinking about that. Right. It just, okay, we'll just get through this thing. It was more common sense. Like, okay, this is what you do in this situation. Here now, there's actually people out there that have done it, are doing it right, like what you heard Andrew talk about, and are willing to share that information.
That's huge. And Andrew, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say one of the biggest things for my success in real estate and the other ancillary business we do is all about getting someone that's done it or is doing it better than me and either pay them to help me, join the mastermind, have them coach or partner with them in a different way. Or a lot of times you can get it off social media or YouTube. And I would say constantly being a learner and always knowing that there's other and better ways out there. You just have to learn it and soak it in and then try it and take some action is probably the single most important thing that I've done to my growth, and not only in real estate sales, but title and hard money and all these other businesses that are doing very well for us.
Wow. And that's a perfect segue. I didn't even pay you for that segue. That's perfect. So one of the main themes and the reoccurring themes that we keep coming back to on this podcast is that a quote by Jim Rohn, right? Success leaves clues. And I would love to know, what are the habits, right? So we talk about the goals, and, Holly Mayberry, our incredible, one of our vice presidents here. She talks about the fact that, the success is where you end up, right? But it's the daily habits that determine whether or not you're on the road and whether or not you're going to hit that success point. So what are the daily habits that you have? I'll start with you, Andrew. What are the daily habits that you have that have led you to this point, right? Of, 50 deals and then 500 deals and then, on your way to 5,000 transactions in a 1 year period. What are the habits that you have put in place now and that you plan for the future?
Man, everything for me now is about investing in my knowledge base on a daily basis now. So I consume as much information from podcasts and books than I ever have because I got a taste of that with, I'd join a mastermind and I'd spend 2 days and I might pay to be at that mastermind and I'd get like an idea that saved me $200,000 in taxes or started a new business. And so on a daily basis, I mean, for me, it's about learning. Because the cool thing about what we have now built is it's more about saying no to meetings for me these days and saying yes to meetings, because we are so busy, that I could work 120 hours a week and never see my little baby girl and my stepdaughters and my wife. And so now for me, I'm definitely at a different stage than I was 8-9 years ago, where I really had to hustle and network and, build relationships with home builders and make contacts with my sphere. I don't do any of that stuff personally now. It's more about those bigger relationships, where I can take a meeting that will give me knowledge or partner with someone. And so I try to keep my calendar really focused on those meetings, and trying to say no to anything that doesn't support my vision, with my other businesses and my family. So it's definitely changed over time, of what I'm doing on a daily basis. But right now I'm just in a big learning mode. Like I'm trying to learn, and there's big topics, right? There's, taxes is a big thing. Wealth building is a big thing for me right now. So it's changed for me over my 9 years of doing real estate.
Jimmy?
What do I do?
Yeah. I mean, what are the habits that you put into place, that lead themselves to success?
Well, this is me having to go into the memory bank here, right? So,
Sure.
I made sure to both start new relationships on an almost daily basis, as well as keep those relationships. A lot of times I think people in our business, we're so busy and we're so focused on, for obvious reasons, understandable reasons, we're focused on, transactions that can feed our family. It's very easy to forget about the relationship that just came before that. It's very easy to transactions closed, and that person, that relationship can be put on a back burner. And so I always emphasize to people not to do that. The worst thing you can see is one of the it's really frustrating if you're driving by a home that you sold and you see somebody sign in the yard because you didn't you forgot about that relationship. So I tried to be good at that, and I tried to create more relationships because which I tried to do on a daily, if not daily. There's some days that's not going to happen, right? But on a weekly basis, and I tried to build my business on that. It was a very small business approach compared to what you've heard from Andrew, but that's kind of how I did it. And what I found is, I started the business with nothing, very few relationships at all. I guess none of the relationships I had ever bought a house, so essentially zero, referral here and there. And, before I knew it, I had thousands of people. And so if you do start relationships, those relationships will turn into repeat business and referrals. And then it grows, and then it starts to grow exponentially because you did things right. You took care of people and you were treated them right and you were honest with them. And it grows exponentially, and then it starts to take off a little bit like the national debt. It just multiplies. So that's one of the things that keeps these down markets from not being nearly as bad, because more people this year than you did last year. And so, and while there may be less business, there might not be less business necessarily for you, because your numbers, your relationships are so much more. Your sphere is so much more than it ever has been, that in itself could offset, a down market. And I've talked to plenty of people who are not, our growth has been so much, it would have been hard for them not to be a little bit of a step back. in 21 was so insane. But I've talked to some unbelievably good agents who, are maintaining nicely. So, and I think that's because they did what I'm talking about.
And if I'm hearing you correctly, and to rephrase, not because it needs rephrasing, but from my own brain, right? If I'm hearing you, it's thinking long term, right, and not always about the short term buck, right? Just the transactions, but thinking of it more like a business, because that's what can outlast you, right? And outlast your influence. If you look at, you as you ride off into the sunset, into retirement, right? The team is still growing. It's still expanding. They're going to do more and more and more business, even though you've kind of stepped up your foot off the gas and Andrew is kind of piling it on. And I if I'm understanding you right, that's what you're saying. I mean, it's about looking at the long term and what's going to outlast you and your impact. And you can only do that on the foundation of trust and the foundation of doing business the right way.
I did a video recently about my 40 years, which I try to kind of break up into 10-year increments. And my first 10 years in the business, starting with zero, no transactions, no listings, nothing in title, and very few relationships. And to speak to what you're talking about, it was a marathon, and some of these guys that can build teams have pulled out building teams like they have Cole and Kelly Watkins to get to where they got to as quickly as I'm in awe of that. By the time I hit the end of my first 10 years, I was 37 years old, and I think at 35, I figured out I had a net worth of zero. I had 2 young children.
Yeah.
It was the 80s, which is, again, makes this look like a trip to Disneyland. And it was a whole decade of it, right? Houston was a bust town. 50% of the homes got foreclosed on during that era. It was crazy. There was no traffic.
Double-digit
interest. I could go to an Astro game with no traffic at 5:00 in the afternoon. It was great. That part was great. Nothing else about it was. And then, so at 37, I had just come out of where I was starting to, get on a little bit of a roll. And then after the end of my next 10 years, I was in a position to retire because I feel like I had done everything like I was supposed to. I'd done well with the relationships. I had, I'd maintained the relationships that I had. And, the snowball had started right around the end of my 10th year. Nowadays you can get to this sort of situation if you're a new agent. You can get to a lot quicker than I did. But that was in a time where people, we had a lot longer period of a bad market, and also there was a lot less money and a lot less tools, like cell phones didn't exist and fax machines that have now been replaced by much more efficient ways. So everything was slower. It took longer. It took longer to do transactions and all that. So, but that was my story. After my first 10 years, barely, head above water. 10 years later, at 47, in a position to retire had I chosen to do so. So that was to your point. Yeah, it's a long game, but it can steamroll as well.
It's great. It's great. Andrew, I want to circle back to something that you mentioned about the podcast and about always and kind of what your success habit has been of late, which is just pouring into yourself, investing in your education. What are maybe the top 3, let's say, influences that you have right now, right? What are you listening to? What podcasts are you subscribed to besides Wednesday Wisdom? Obviously, by the way, like, share, subscribe to this one. I forgot to mention, I usually bring that up like 5 times, but I'm so enthralled in what y'all are saying. But stop right now, everyone, and subscribe if you haven't already. This is free. We've got someone that's going to share with you how to build a business that can sustain 1,000, 3,000, 5,000 transactions in a year, and it's absolutely free. I just ask you to click the little subscribe button. Thank you, Andrew. So what are you listening to right now? What are you pouring into yourself?
So one of the best things I do from it, and it's different, and that's why it's, because I have these different businesses, I definitely have to compartmentalize like, okay, I'm going to spend time here on hard money business. I'm going to spend time here on title. Okay. Real estate sales, which is, our longest business, and it has the most people. But in my opinion, probably the most challenging business, where I spend a lot of my time. But so it sort of depends on what you're looking for. I would say wealth building, the best thing I do is I'm a part of a paid mastermind. It's not cheap, but it's worth every penny. Where and they have a lot of ongoing content on a daily and weekly basis, but then they have a in-person meeting for like 2 days where they have some speakers. And that's called Be Wealthy Mastermind. Brett Tanner runs that. So a lot of great stuff. And he runs a real estate team, but he has a lot of ancillary businesses. He's big about real estate investing. He's big about saving money the right way for taxes, and just knows the tax code. And always has really good speakers. So I would say, from a wealth building, real estate investing, business building perspective, Be Wealthy is awesome. He has a free Facebook group that's Be a Wealthy Agent, but then you can pay to be in another private group with his paid people, and then all this other. He literally does daily calls with different topics every single Monday through Friday. And then he has the in-person. And then another good one for real estate investing. Everyone knows this one, but I'm very impressed with the content is Bigger Pockets. They just have a lot of good speakers that can cover a lot of topics, and you could literally just search their old episodes and learn a ton, type in something you want to learn, owner finance or short-term rentals. I mean, all the stuff on the real estate investing, they just have so much good content over a long period of time. And then everything else, man, I'm sort of hyper-focused in 2023 to digital marketing and digital, how to build digital funnels. And so that'll be a big 2023 is all about, digital, how we attract strangers from a marketing perspective. How do we spend $1 on Google or $1 on this and get $4 back? You have to have really good funnels, really good offers. No one on our team is really that effective at building sales funnels from an internet basis. So I'm going to learn that in 2023. I just find who's really good on social media that is doing. I'm big with doers, so I want someone in a good position that is around a lot of good people or doing good stuff themselves, and then I start consuming their content. There's a lot of gurus out there that don't do it themselves or are not in a position where they see a lot of transactions or see whatever they do, and so I make sure the person has done it first, and then I try to consume that person's content. So
wonderful. Let me ask you, what is one question that I should have asked you but didn't about this topic of goal setting, about this topic of planning for a successful 2023?
How do you do this from a family perspective?
That's a good one.
And the only reason I told you should ask me that is because I've started to do that with my family. My wife and I, we went off-site. It was a condo we owned 45 minutes away, and we did a whole family planning for 2023. And
wow,
it looked different, and we haven't been to the point where we're setting up quarterly rocks on things we have to accomplish. I'm not going to sign my wife's stuff, and she's not 100% on board with the EOS with family. But it really, the cool thing about planning is it provides clarity and getting on the same page. And that's all planning is about, is when you have a leadership team and then you bring it to your company, everyone knows where you're going. What I realized on the family side is that our travel and my work and all that was very hectic. And so now, like, if you look at our calendar, we have our whole year of travel plan. Yes, some things might add and subtract from that, but we have 90% of what where I'm going to go, where she's going to go in 2023. And so it provides a lot of clarity. So I would say a lot of us spend a lot of time consuming content and planning around our businesses. But a lot of us would say family is more important. And I had to look myself in the mirror and say, where was my priorities? So now I'm mixing in books on how to be a better parent, how to be a better husband, because I want to spend the same amount of time obsessing about business growth as I want to obsess about having a better and stronger family.
That's incredible. And it can go for anything in your life, right? It can be goals for your health, right? And
Yeah.
you know, what do you want to attain that way? Spiritual goals and kind of what you want your relationship to look like with things that are greater than you, and on down the list. So I think that's incredible. And you want to set these big outrageous goals for all of them, and just attack them like all heck. So I want to ask one final question as we talk about kind of the importance of setting these big old ugly goals that are huge in nature. I can tell you, like, for instance, our goal, one of the things that we have as a team, and the team kind of freaked out when I said this, but I was like, look, what we are going to do is contact every single agent in this brokerage. So all, you know, at that point, we'll probably be at 10,000 agents. We're going to call every single agent and ask them how we can help them grow their business and answer that question, right? And not stop until we answer that question. So that's our big kind of outrageous goal. We're already on progress for that. We've reached out already to thousands of agents that we have here in Texas. And we're, you know, if you haven't been called yet, if you are an EXP agent, you will be. Otherwise, you know, you can give us a call too. We're here. Point is, we have big kind of outrageous goals. You talked about some of your big outrageous goals, but what I find is that, you know, in making some of these calls, a lot of times agents, when they're doing their goal setting, they come up with something that they think is reasonable, and then they knock a little bit off of that and say, okay, I could maybe do this. That would be a stretch. So let me knock this off a little bit so I don't feel bad if I don't hit it, versus what you're saying, which is like long term, this is where we're headed. So how important is it to set an outrageous goal versus something that you think that you could obtain less, you know, that feeling of not being able to hit it?
Well, they say, and I don't know who says this quote, but I believe it is that you underestimate what you can do in 5 years and overestimate what you can do in a year.
I've heard it many times. Yeah.
Yeah. And I believe that. And so I think if you have 5+ years to achieve something, it needs to be hairy and audacious, or it's not growth, right? 5 years is a lot of time. 10 years is a ton of time. And so if your goals aren't hairy and audacious and outrageous, like you said, in 5 or 10 years, then it's not really a 5-year or 10-year plan, right? Because if I could accomplish 5,000 closings next year, it's not really a 10-year goal. And so I think you need to set goals you honestly can look in the mirror and know you can achieve. And so our year goals are very, very achievable to a point where it's something that we're confident we're going to get. But we know we have to push it as well. So I think it just comes down to getting real with what's important to you. You don't have, if you're a realtor, having a 5,000 home closings could sound miserable to you, and that's completely fine. Growth can be, I want to make X amount of money and work 5 hours a week, right? Like, and if that makes you happy, that's awesome. But you really need to look in the future, and then work your way backwards of where, and that future could change, right? Like I could get 3 years into this and be like, that sounds terrible. I'm getting older and my kids are getting older, and I just don't want to do 5,000 home closings. And we might change that as a leadership team. I don't think we're going to, but I think you have to really figure out what's going to make you happy. But then make it something that's achievable as well. Not just I'm going to, do something that's 100 times better than I was last year, and you think you're going to, knock a little bit off that's not really goal planning. That's just, setting some huge target that you're not going to really achieve.
That's right. And to be clear, I'm talking about quarterly as well. So we're reaching out to every single agent quarterly. So that'll be a cool thing.
Wow.
See, there you go. It's not crazy. It's not crazy.
No,
you
that's
sound
crazy.
Like,
crazy in a good way. I mean, that's how businesses, work is what sounds crazy. If you set up the systems and processes and the people to achieve it, then crazy is amazing, right? So
that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And to kind of flip and close this out here, I want to talk about the reverse side of that. Maybe pitch to you, Jimmy. And that is the reverse side of goal setting is kind of negative goal setting. And that is saying, and Jim Rohn calls it an at least list, right? And saying, okay, this is the goal. This is what I want to hit. But I at least have to hit this in order to look myself in the mirror and call myself a man and look my family in the face and say, I actually tried. I have to at least hit this amount. So Jimmy, have you ever seen that type of strategy as well? Or is that something that you've implemented in saying I have to at least hit this goal on my way to that one?
I never did that. That's pretty cool. One of the things, as I listened to Andrew and learned about EOS is obviously way after my time, but in a much more primitive, singular way. I did a lot of the things Andrew's talked about. I set goals quite often. I would revisit those goals, and I would do them monthly. I would do them, quarterly, and I would do them annually. And I did some 5-year goals as well. And I found myself resetting them. And I tended to go for a goal that I thought I probably wasn't going to hit, or, if I was being realistic, but if I got to a certain percentage of a lot of those goals, then I was, okay. I was okay with it. Because I knew I was I was reaching for the stars. And I also did them on other things too. Like Tony, you talked about health and family and things like that. Things I felt like I could do better at, but I never did that. I never did at least. I found myself after the fact saying, well, since I had shot for these higher goals and whatever reason that particular goal didn't happen, I did get to what probably would have been an at least if I get to that, I would be so okay with it. I would be somewhat not satisfied, if you will, but not too. But I never did that. Have you done that, Andrew?
I haven't done that, but not a bad. I don't think that's a bad thing, right? You have basically it's your conservative goal and your aggressive goal, right? I mean, it's just, hey, I really want to work at this, but I'm pretty happy at this too. We all mentally have that, right? Like if in 10 years I'm selling 4,500 homes a year, and not 5,000, am I a failure? No, it's about the journey. And so I think that's great stuff. I've never done it personally, but I like it.
And it's a floor, it's a floor and saying, hey, we will never be below this. Like that is the baseline. If we get below that, there's a 5-alarm fire and, all heck is breaking loose. So yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much. As we kind of get ready to part ways here, how can folks reach out to you all if they want to talk to you about maybe joining the Franklin team, or they just have additional questions for you about real estate or one of your ancillary businesses? How can they reach out?
Yeah, so we're both on social media. We're both active on Facebook. That's easy. The Franklin team, obviously, you can find us on there. You can even Google my name. I think my cell phone comes up. Glad to share that as well. 281-460-9319. His is 281-433-628.
6728.
6728.
Don't give mine out, please.
But we're a realtor, so we're pretty easy to find at the end of the day. But social media, we're active on, and we're trying to be more active on it. But you can call our office and find us as well. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. As for myself, so yeah, EXP agents, of course, y'all know y'all can reach me on workplace chat. That's going to be the best way. That comes to my cell, so that's going to be the quickest and fastest way to reach me. If you're not with EXP yet, or if you're not with EXP, by all means, hit me on LinkedIn, Tony D. King. That's going to be the best way to contact me. I look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. And finally, as we know, we close out by saying that you're right. You are absolutely right. Whether you think that you can do this, whether you think that you can follow this footprint that Andrew and Jimmy and the Franklin team has kind of set forward to a path of closing 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 transactions. If you think you can do it, you're right. If you think you can't do it, you're also right. So that's always my challenge for you all. Figure it out. And we're here to help. I'm here to help. And they've also given their information. Thank you so much, Franklins, for chopping on today. I know your time is super valuable. I probably cost you maybe 500 transactions just in this little hour that we've been spending together. So thank you for taking some time away from your goal to share with others.
Tony, I did want to mention that I've been a broker. I owned a franchise for a little while, and I've had a number of brokers. And you're easily the best broker I've ever had. And I'm not saying that because we're here right now. And I've told you this before, but I did want to bring that to your attention.
We appreciate you, man, for sure.
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that. I'll hit you on Cash App right after this is over. So thank you all so much. All right,
I have Venmo. I'm old.
Venmo, okay, got you.
I know how Venmo works. Yeah.
All right, thank you all so much. Everyone else, enjoy your Wednesday. Remember, like, share, subscribe, and reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, y'all.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. That's right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.